When on an assignment in the town of Oro, New Mexico, journalist Andrea Butcher suddenly ceased all communications with her employer. After 48 hours of no one in her life being able to contact her, Andrea's significant other filed a missing persons report. Prior to going missing, Miss Butcher had reported to her boss that several features about the town and its inhabitants were unnerving to her. The town of Oro, New Mexico is the place in which the company Ouroboros was founded and operates to this day. Ouroboros is a multifaceted corporation that primarily operates in two markets: food, namely the hyper-processed variety, and medicine, namely organ and drug research. The spur of the investigation was that Ouroboros food products had recently been linked to several severe side effects, both physiological and psychological. All of these they vehemently deny, despite the fact that after a period of time without consuming OF products, individuals who consume them regularly experience withdrawal symptoms. Shortly after this news, the head researcher of the Ouroboros medical branch contacted the media for a public interview and quit in distress. He died before the interview could take place. The local authorities of Oro, New Mexico ruled that he died by his own hand. Those who visited report similar experiences with natives to Miss Butcher, the more sensationalist of the bunch calling them pigmen. All of the food served in and around the town and complex are Ouroboros Farms brand products. As one gets closer to the center of the town, the scenery becomes noticeably unkempt, and the townspeople become increasingly erratic, almost animalistic. At the center of this town lies a massive, heavily guarded compound warehouse facility. Miss Butcher reported that she was going to investigate this structure shortly before going missing. Andrea's disappearance marked the first time in which authorities were able to obtain a warrant to search the grounds of the town of Oro and the facilities that lie inside and around it. Despite the company's consistent attempts to contest the warrant, the New Mexico State Troopers began its formal investigation in the compound on May 11th, 2024, at midnight. The authorities first searched the most outlying warehouse, finding that it was what appeared to be a regular pig factory farm. While this certainly wasn't the pinnacle of animal rights, it wasn't unlike what happens elsewhere in the country. They went to the second most outlying warehouse. This, while still a factory pig farm, was anything but regular. One officer noted that the pigs were fattened to the point that they were unable to move, but upon closer inspection, this wasn't only fat. As the officer moved down the row of animals, they began to look less like pigs and more like a nonsensical mess of sense organs, lumps, limbs, open sores, and leaking orifices. A large, amorphous, living, pained, pulsating tumor created for the purpose of maximizing the amount of edible meat. Several officers stayed back to examine more. Most moved on to the next warehouse. This warehouse was labeled Organ Research and Storage. This building, unlike the last two, were separated by dividers into 3 rooms. The paper-thin divider did very little to muffle the sounds of squelching, groaning, and pained breathing that lay deeper within the building. The first room looked like a standard biological research laboratory. The next room, labeled Production Line, did not. On the other side of the door was what could only be described as a Cronenberg Chimera factory farm, a nightmarish slaughterhouse containing nonsensical abominations made from living matter, blobs that only function as organ factories. One was a skin carpet, latent with beating hearts. Another was just a tangled mass of intestines, veins, teeth, and eyes. A tree made of bones with forearms for branches from which sprouted what looked like at first to be pulsating wet slugs, but at closer examination were functioning human livers. A nearby filing cabinet detailed how the workers would harvest the fruits of the chimera's labor while they remained alive. They were instructed to, quote, ignore what may appear to be the sound of its suffering. DNA samples were taken from each of the creatures, and they were promptly dispatched. From here, the officers moved into the last room, labeled Drug Research. In these rooms were living pigs, with the top section of their skull removed. One of these officers was quite well versed in anatomy and biology, and upon a cursory examination of the brain of a deceased pig, he noted that these brains were far too large and complex to be that of a typical sow, and looked to be more human than swine. Next to each pig was a metal table with syringes and different vials of psychoactive compounds. An MRI machine sat in the corner, stained brown with aged gore. Several samples from each pig's brain were taken. and they were dispatched. At this point, the team had made it from the outer warehouse facilities towards the town. The last warehouse between them and Central Ouro was labeled Food Effect Research. This warehouse was filled end to end with filing cabinets. In each of the cabinets were folders containing information relating to various studies. One of the most pressing files was labeled the cattle process. These pages detailed the addictive nature and side effects of their food. It describes how consumption of Ouroboros products leads to sluggishness, weight gain, brain fog, decreased mental aptitude, suggestibility, apathy, and overall decrease in health and autonomy. It describes how Ouroboros products have a high addiction rate among consumers, as well as detailing the method of influencing heavy consumers to seek employment at Ouroboros in the boarding program. Finally, it details how unrestrained consumption of these products leads to irreversible physiological and psychological changes, and how implantation of the modified chimera organs leads to a craving for Ouroboros products. This file, along with several case files, were confiscated and sent back to the authorities' HQ for further examination. After gathering the information, the team reconvened at the edge of town and sent all samples and information back in a state vehicle for study and analysis. The team informed dispatch that they were moving into the town itself. No update was heard for about 5 minutes, at which point they stated, "They're awake." This was the last confirmed communication from the team. Case Study 40001. Name: Andrea Butcher. Status: offending journalist. Age: 28. Sex: female. Weight: 330 pounds. Behavior: enraged and aggressive. Physiology: a toughened skin, distorted jawbones, and a rapid and extreme increase in muscular and fat storage alongside a white matter decay. The patient's skin is now leathery and rough, comparable to that of a boar's hide. Butcher's disappearance has caused an influx of attention to our corporation, and efforts are currently underway to determine if there is a way to reverse this condition in order to make sure she is releasable without question.
Do you love eating at the Ouro Diner, where the taste is so unique, it's literally impossible to get anything remotely like it anywhere else? I love me an Ouro burger, a good Ouro wrap, or maybe I'll even get fancy and get a premium meat cylinder. Might even get me a flavor slab, now with 30% more flavor. If you're a fat fuck like me, I bet you feel like you need to eat it every day. Well, now you can. Introducing frozen Ouro meals. Classics like Flavor Slab at home. And now, all new offerings like Pig Sack, pork-flavored pulled meat sandwich, and block of chili. Ouro, you are what's eating you.
If you like this video and want to see more, make sure to come back and like, comment, subscribe with all notifications enabled, or I'll make you into a pig tumor. I want to thank Direx for drawing all these spooky pork critters. I'd like to thank Biodegradable for editing this video. They're a great editor and you should go watch all of their things. Shout out to Air Circle. Love y'all. Bye.